You are listening to the Nature's Premier Podcast, episode 43, a look into Dr. Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots organization. Here on the Nature's Premier Podcast, we talk about everything from bees to babies and sustainable living. Join us while we talk about natural parenting and different ways to live a more sustainable lifestyle for ourselves and our future generations to come. Now let's begin. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode here on the Nature's Premier Podcast. I am your host, Brooke Nichols, and I am blessed to be back here with another episode for you all today. Thank you so much for tuning in. A quick word from our sponsor, Nature's Premier Diaper Service. They are New York's cloth and compostable diaper service, providing families throughout Long Island and New York City with a healthier way to diaper their babies. Learn how to reduce your eco-footprint today by checking them out at www.naturespremier.com. Now on to the show. On today's episode of the podcast, I had a chance to sit down with Erin Viera, the Vice President of Dr. Jane Goodall's organization, Roots and Shoots. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Dr. Jane Goodall's work, she is an absolute pillar in the environmental movement, conservation. She has done so much in her work and research with chimpanzees. She has traveled around the world. She has started organizations. You know, she is an absolute pillar in the community. And to be fair, I think she deserves an entire different episode based on her life and her work. So we are going to be having a separate episode about Dr. Jane Goodall and all of the amazing things that she has done in her life for the environment and for the people around her. But today's episode, we're going to focus on her organization, Roots and Shoots. Now, one huge reason why I absolutely love Roots and Shoots is because it educates our youth about the environment, about things that we can do to make the future a better place, to make our environment better for the animals around it, who live in it, who rely on it, and, you know, just to learn empathy, you know, for people, for everybody that's affected by our choices that we make. Founded in 1991, Dr. Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots is a youth service program for young people of all ages. Their mission is to foster respect and compassion for all living things, to promote understanding of all cultures and beliefs, and to inspire each individual to take action to make the world a better place for people, other animals, and the environment. And that's another reason why I love it too, is because it does not only focus on one part, right? It doesn't just focus on the environment. It doesn't just focus on people or a specific species of animals. It focuses on everything. It looks at the giant scope of what we need to work on and what we need to have compassion for, and it really brings it into their charity, which is so important for children around the world to see, especially in trying times like these. So I am very excited to offer you guys this interview. Check it out. Check them out. www.rootsandshoots.org. Amazing organization. Definitely check them out if you have little ones, and learn more about how you can implement their philosophy and their mission statement into your own parenting, into your own life, because again, this is a fantastic organization, and we highly recommend checking them out and seeing how, you know, we can all do our part to give a little more back to our world. Our guest today is Erin Viera, Vice President of Dr. Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots organization. Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I was really looking forward to this call today. So can you give us a little bit of background about your position in the Roots and Shoots organization?
Absolutely. So I am the Vice President of Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots, which is the youth community action program of the Institute. The organization believes that if we're not cultivating the next generation of compassionate citizens, then the work they do now today for conservation for chimpanzees will all be for naught. So there's a real commitment to working with young people now and developing stewards of our planet.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Now, you guys work with children now. Tell us a little bit about your type of different things that you guys do, like the activities, and where are you located? Like, is this a worldwide organization?
It is. You know, we were originally founded by Dr. Jane and 12 Tanzanian students in 1991 in Tanzania. Jane had become very well known with local communities for her work with animals, with the environment, with people. And so she had 12 students approach her one day and say, listen, there are a lot of problems that we're witnessing, and we don't feel like there's anything we can do about it, but we want to try, we want to help. And, it was a real aha moment. We do all these amazing things to help make our world a better place, but one of the missing elements that I see for a lot of initiatives is a lack of youth involvement. And so in 1991, the program took off, and what started on the back porch of Dr. Jane Goodall has now grown into a global organization. We're in nearly 100 countries around the world, and I have the good fortune to help move along that program in the United States while also collaborating with my global colleagues. But in the United States, we have Roots and Shoots groups of young people tackling issues that are important to them in all 50 states.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And what kind of things do you guys do? Now, is this is for the environment, right? Are you guys, like, do you teach the children about conservation? Like, is there a certain type of genre that you teach? Or is it just about all-encompassing talking about the environment?
Well, so the Jane Goodall Institute is most known for Dr. Goodall's work with chimpanzees, but so obviously a lot of the work that we do is committed to improving the environment. But at Roots and Shoots, what Jane believes, and what I loved so much about the organization, is that you have to listen to young people, their voices, and tap into their passion, and that it's them who not only drives the type of service projects that they do to make a difference for things they care about, but it's them who identify the needs they choose to address. So Roots and Shoots is about young people taking action for people, animals, and the environment. And a critical element of our program is the recognition that they are all interconnected. And this really is highlighted in the way that Dr. Jane Goodall has approached conservation and the protection of chimpanzees. She fell in love with chimpanzees. She saw the critical state they were in, the peril they were in. She knew she needed to help this critical species, but she realized she couldn't do that without protecting their habitat, their environment. And she realized she couldn't protect that environment if she wasn't also working side by side with the community who had needs of their own. And so we help young people make that same recognition. Young people will, look at their community around them. They'll map what they see for people, animals, and the environment. They'll note what's working really well, what resources are available to them, and what are some of the problems they see. And through this exercise, they also prioritize those needs, and they decide, okay, here are the projects that I want to do to make a difference. And I have a hard time finding any one project that doesn't impact all three areas. So, for example, if young people recognize that there's a creek behind them that is deteriorated and they want to rehabilitate that local habitat, well, the work they do will naturally have a positive impact on that environment. It'll have a positive impact for all of the species they recognize as calling that habitat home. And it'll obviously have an impact on the community of people that live around that space and their respect for it, as well as their enjoyment of a natural green area that has been proven to impact our well-being, health, mentally and physically. So it's about that interconnected, holistic connection between people, animals, and the environment that we really prioritize in understanding.
Absolutely. I really commend that. I think a lot of people don't realize that, like you said, it is all interconnected. And we talk about that a lot on the podcast. Some people want to isolate, let's say, save the tigers, but they don't realize that there's deforestation, there's overpopulation, there's a lot of different issues that affect the tigers. So you can't just, say, let's just focus on one thing, because everything affects one another. So that's a really interesting way that you put that. Now, let's say we have someone listening to the show, like myself. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and they want to get involved in Roots and Shoots. Can you tell us a little bit about how they could start? Is there like an age range, or is it really just children in the community that come together, or really of any age, that come together and want to make a difference and work with Roots and Shoots? Like, how does that work with actually joining?
Any young person who wishes to make a difference is invited and encouraged to join our network. and to join Roots and Shoots. The program is free, open to anyone. You can go to rootsandshoots.org to learn more. There are some really easy we call them one-click campaigns. So let's say you're motivated to do something right now and you don't know exactly where you want to start in your own community, but you want to do some good. You can go to our website and participate in a few of those one-click campaigns from wherever you are, just as a way to collaborate with the network on some common issues for people, animals, and the environment. But then, ultimately our hope is that a motivated young person who wants to do some good will find some people to be a part of their team. And it could be their family, it could be their sports team, it could be the kids in their street, it could be their classroom, and that they will map their community to really get a good sense for what is around them and what some of the needs are, so that they can find an area where they're passionate about making a difference. And the tools and resources that are all free and open to anyone on our website can be used to help them guide the solutions they design in order to make a difference for the need that they're most passionate about. And we offer support in the form of mini grants. So kids can apply for a $200 mini grant. Let's say they've decided they want to build a community garden. We know that little bit of seed money can go a long way. We also offer support for young people who wish to become a real leader and form a group, as well as other adults who might nurture their young people along through the implementation of service. We have an online course that is free through Coursera. It's with a collaboration with the University of Colorado Boulder. And that's a great place for anyone to go who wants that extra professional development in order to make themselves the most effective leader of young people, whether they are a young person themselves or an educator, for example, to have the biggest impact through their service projects. And more importantly, to really help the group of young people they're coordinating with develop those critical skills and behaviors of compassionate citizens, which is what our planet really needs. They need young people becoming the adults who are making their choices with their buying power and in their career, making good decisions, not just for themselves, but for our planet.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they are our future. So what we sow today will reap in the future, and I think it's very important, like you had stated. All right. So that's great. That's very interesting. And I'm actually on the site right now and I'm looking at different ways that, children can get involved. I see the one-click campaigns. Now, what are some things that you would tell somebody, let's say a child like, a 10-year-old or so, 10, 11-year-old, and they really want to make a difference in the environment? Would you suggest that they start in their own community, or would, let's say they wanted to help save the jungle, what could they do here that would make an impact there? Is it not supporting certain industries, or is it learning more about palm oil? What kind of advice would you give to a child that really wants to get started in conservation, campaigns and things like that?
Well, Dr. Goodall has a lot of great advice on this. Her model is knowledge, compassion, and action. So first you have to know and understand. And once you really have a good sense and understanding of a situation, that's where your compassion and your commitment and willingness to take action thrives. And then, of course, the action piece is informed by the other two. So, I see both areas where young people, they want to get involved, but they don't know where. And I personally think starting locally is a great idea because, you get to really feel and see tangibly the impact of your efforts because it is local to you and you're addressing something that as a young person you can physically see and touch. That said, there are a lot of young people that come to the program already excited about making a difference for perhaps an animal like the tiger who is not native to the United States. And in fact, this would involve trying to make a difference for a species in Asia. So, and in that case, that's where knowledge is very important, understanding why tigers are at risk, what sort of decisions that we make here would have an impact for that species in the wild or in captivity. How can we make a difference for them as a species? And so things like purchasing power, absolutely. But I really think it's important for kids to be the decider of what that need is and where they see themselves making a difference, and working with them, cultivating with them the skills in order to learn more about it and understand it themselves, so that they're a part of designing those solutions.
Absolutely. I think it's very intimidating when we look at like the scope of the world and how many different areas really need our attention and our compassion. Now, we have a lot of listeners who listen to the show that have very young children. And like, what kind of advice could you give to the parents who really want to start implementing this type of compassion into their, daily activities, into their lifestyle, really raising their children, with more compassion and drive to help and get involved in conservation? What kind of advice would you give a parent if they really want to show or help their children to become more compassionate about the environment and make a difference?
So I'm a parent myself to two very young children. So I can tell you what I'm doing as a mother, really prioritizing raising two compassionate human beings that are good stewards of our planet. And the biggest thing is modeling. Role modeling. I mean, I can tell you exactly how I got to the position I am today, committed to making the world a better place and protecting our environment. And it's because I had a mother and a father who prioritized this in my upbringing. So I grew up with a mother volunteering. We did wildlife rehab. The discussion around compassionate action and talking about, just at the fundamental level, what is kindness and what are kind choices, and helping young kids to empathize, like think about feelings of others. But modeling is just so important, making it a culture of volunteerism and calling out good decisions as they happen. So, for example, with my 2-year-old and my 4.5-year-old, when we go on walks, we'll bring a bag with us to pick up litter. It's not something we do once. It's something we do regularly. And it's an opportunity for us to talk about why there's litter, what is the problem with it, where does it go when it goes down those storm drains, how the litter here in this space, believe it or not, is impacting some of the animals they love to learn about most in the ocean. And so now my kids are just natural cleaners. They walk around, they see trash, we pick it up, and it's become a behavior because it's one that we've modeled and implemented in our life. And some of the other choices that we make, we have a garden, and we talk about that garden in terms of the plants, the food that it produces and how it sustains us, the little bugs and the lizards and the birds that all, make that garden their home, that this is a shared space where we all benefit. Those sorts of things are very important. And, I involve them in every aspect of my work. They're at every event. And so I think one of the biggest things that we can do is prioritize others. And when I say others, I mean people, animals, and the environment, and having those conversations regularly with our young people and modeling it through our own choices.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's very important, and like you said earlier about, picking up things. I think there's a big awakening that's happening, especially with our youth, about, zero waste movements and things like that. Now, because you work with so many different people from, around the country, and Roots and Shoots works globally, are you seeing different trends about certain practices picking up, like, people maybe being more mindful about, pollution, or mindful about, zero waste, things like that? Like, are you seeing that there is like a growing movement, or do you still see that we need a lot of work? Because I know here in New York, we're behind California, in my personal opinion, like at least 5 years, as far as where we are sustainable wise. Like, we just passed the ban the bag movement in Suffolk County on Long Island. What kind of trends are you seeing globally about where we are as far as sustainability is concerned?
Oh, personally, what I'm seeing is that we're all in different phases in our journey towards realizing our, more compassionate, environmentally friendly selves. And it has to do with a lot of things. So many different pieces are at play. And I think one of the biggest ones that perhaps isn't called out often enough is that a lot of times where we are in our our commitment to the environment with different geographies, different cultures, has a lot to do with the situation of that population and the problems they might be facing. And that's one of the messages I love so much about Jane Goodall is she doesn't condemn people for their choices. It's about understanding why perhaps they're not at a place to be prioritizing the elimination of single-use plastics. I mean, what else? What are the other priorities that they're working through, whether it's financial or health? So I think that this is going to be a constant battle, a constant movement. But, we will be at a much better place as a society if more people are raising their young people to prioritize our planet. And it really is about the choices that are made every day on an individual level. But then these are the people who will go on to lead big industries. And we know the impact that an industry can or cannot have on our environment. So it's about raising compassionate citizens, making good choices from the playground to the boardroom. And that comes from modeling and cultivating those really important skills, behaviors, and attitudes.
Thank you for sharing that. That is true, because a lot of different parts of the world, they deal with a whole lot of different situations. Everyone, like you had said, is on a different path in their journey. I hear a lot of times that, somebody will want to change their habits, let's say, like they'll want to start using reusable bags, or they'll want to start using reusable straws. And, but they want to do everything at once. Like, this is the kind of thing that takes time. So I think that's why it really is important to teach children, because by the time they're older, then they're already doing everything that's more sustainable as compared to when we were kids. And I think that's something that's really important. Now, what are some projects that you guys are working on? I'm looking at Roots and Shoots right now. I'm looking at the different campaigns. Do you guys have different campaigns that simultaneously happen throughout the world? Is there like different things that you guys are focusing in different parts of the world? Or is this just like a big, pretty much like genre for different people to jump on whichever campaign suits them best?
It's about whatever campaign suits you best. You can participate in one, you can participate in them all, and you know that you're contributing to something that is being contributed to by young people all over the United States and in many cases around the world. We do have some very important holidays at Roots and Shoots that everyone celebrates together. And our biggest one is the International Day of Peace. Dr. Jane Goodall is an appointed messenger of peace. And so what we call Peace Day around the world is a very celebrated holiday where we have global campaigns that anyone around the world can participate in, all aimed towards helping our communities, ourselves, live in peaceful harmony with people, animals, and the environment, and come together and find those interconnections so that we can have important conversations, find commonalities, and together respectfully move towards a better place.
That's amazing. So you said that was worldwide, right?
That is worldwide. It's September 21st every year. I encourage people to go to rootsandshoots.org and sign up to receive notifications about inspiring stories of young people making a difference, opportunities to perhaps hear Jane speak when she's in the area, resources that are available to young people who want to tackle needs, and celebrated opportunities like the Day of Peace to come together and be a part of a global movement.
Amazing. I wasn't even aware of a Day of Peace. That's actually, that's fascinating. I'm glad to know about that. September 21st. Now, I know a lot of people who are listening to this episode are probably very inspired. Even if they're not a child, they're looking to make a difference in their own community. What's something that they could do today? Like if there's a habit they could change, or if there's something that they can do, maybe a book they can read, that you would recommend them starting today to start their path on a more compassionate lifestyle?
Well, there's always, I try to wake up every morning and remind myself I have a choice to make this morning, today. I can live my day neutral. I can exist today and have a negative impact on the environment, or I can work really hard and be intentional today about leaving the day better than I found it when I woke up. And you know, that's something that Dr. Jane Goodall always says, you have a choice about the impact you're going to make. Like what impact will that be? And so I work really hard to think about that, so that just my daily decisions that I'm making, you know, when I go to the grocery store, remind myself to take that reusable bag. And if I forget it, I throw everything into my cart. I do not accept a plastic bag, and I just accept that it's going to take me a few minutes longer to get in the door.
Oh, yes, I do the same thing.
You know, just those sorts of choices. I mean, you know, one of the things that I've had to own and acknowledge as a parent is that young people, babies, I mean, it is a consumer heavy industry. And what we're working on really now in order to have the biggest impact for us and our planet is just reducing our consumption of things and being more involved in our community and sharing our resources. It's shocking when you think about all the stuff that you feel obligated to buy or that we're told we need to purchase and invest in, you know, because of X, Y, Z. I mean, can we do without the baby wipe warmer? Can we do without, you know, some of the extra furniture, like a changing table, you know, choices like that, and especially choosing not to overconsume as a parent. These are habits that I'm hopeful my children will recognize, because it's been a hard journey for me, even as an environmentalist and a humanitarian. I struggle with the compulsion to purchase, to buy. And it has been a long process for me to put that filtration and that checkpoint in place before I actually hit the button online or go out to the store to buy something I think I need. Do I really need it? And is there another option if I do? And that has been a big difference. And it's a conversation that I have with my kids regularly, and they're getting it. They understand. But it's a hard one. It's a hard one to make, but especially as parents raising environmentally friendly kids, like I said, it's that modeling, it's those choices that we make. And it's about involving even our youngest kids in making those decisions with us, and why.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, we live in such a consumer society. I mean, you could sneeze and place an order for 5 different types of paper towels and on Amazon. I mean, it's literally that easy. It is so incredible. Yeah, it's so true. And there's this fantastic book called Garbage Land. Not to sidetrack too much, but if people knew where their stuff went when they threw it out, and they saw how massive and how much of an issue, especially here in the States, our garbage problem is. I mean, it's horrifying when you really follow the trail. So a lot of people, like, they don't realize, you know, they might buy all these things, but what happens when they have no use for it? And let's say the person they donated for doesn't have a use for it. It gets chucked in the trash, but there's so much that happens between when you buy it to when it gets thrown out. It's like, it's literally, it's stored there for God knows how long. I mean, it's very interesting, like, because a lot of people will be like, oh, I need that wipe warmer or that changing table, but they don't realize that that's going to sit in a landfill for a very, very long time, probably never break down. There's just a lot of things to consider. And of course, you know, landfills take up space that affects our environment in so many different ways. So that's really interesting that you put it towards that. So more of like a minimalist approach, if you can, pretty much is what you're saying.
Yeah, and finding the joy in the things that we need to do anyway, and let's do them really well, like the culture of food and how we eat and where our food comes from, and enjoying it with our friends. And, you know, I say all these things. It's hard. You said people become overwhelmed. They want to do it all at once. And as someone who's tried to do that and failed, I can say you have to embrace the journey that it takes to get to that point. And I am not there, but, you know, I do my best, and I hold myself accountable for the decisions that I can make when I can make them. And I strive to do better. And, you know, so some of the things, it's been a 5-year process. I feel like, you know, my family and I chose to live in a small home. 1,000 square feet. We are in California, massive drought. We chose to kill our lawn and plant a native garden. We are choosing to embark on a journey to grow our own food as best we can. We adopted 7 chickens. So now my kids are understanding where eggs come from, and they're questioning the eggs that we used to buy at the grocery store and how they got there and how long did it take and where did they come from and why so far. And, it takes a long time. I mean, it's taken me 5 years to get to where I am today, where I can tell you I have radically reduced my consumption. And by the way, I've also increased my savings because I'm spending a whole lot less. But I really want my kids to understand the joy in that, and the joy in the things that we're distracted from so often. And my kids love nothing more than a potluck at our house, and they get to cook something made from the squash they helped to grow or the eggs they helped collect. And there's something really beautiful and simple in that that's incredibly satisfying after getting over that sort of longing and aching to just go shopping because I'm bored, which sometimes still happens, but that's where putting myself into check and reminding myself why I'm doing this and challenging myself to, let that urge go and to focus on something that is healthy for everyone.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you said that about shopping because you're bored. That's actually, it's statistically proven that a lot of sales made online, generally it's people just browsing. It's just like kind of mindless buying. So it is something to stay certainly intentional about. I think it's great. I mean, growing your own food, I live in New York, so it's a little different, but I do have a big garden. I'm excited that spring's coming up because I'll be able to resume eating tomatoes, because once you grow your own food, it's very difficult to turn around and buy them from a store, unless it's like a small farmer's market, because the food's just very different. So even that act in itself, growing a garden, is like almost, in my opinion, an act of kind of like a revolution. If we all had a backyard garden, even if we grew different herbs, I mean, I could only imagine how much that would change, the economy and just people's health and just the happiness, because there's a lot of science around that. So that's very, very interesting. Now, just as like a closing thing, what would you tell people about Roots and Shoots? Is there anything that you'd want them to take home about the organization, just in case they're interested in learning more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the guiding principle here is that every individual matters, every individual has a role to play, and every individual makes a difference. So it's about what difference are you going to choose to make. And it costs nothing to become a part of the network. And it's a great way, if you have this intention of being a good steward for the planet, to stay on top of that commitment, because you're a part of a network of other like-minded individuals, all committed to making the world a better place. So I would encourage everyone to just take the first step, go to rootsandshoots.org and join the movement, join the network. It's baby steps, right? So we're talking about, you don't have to be overwhelmed. You don't have to do everything at once. Just choose one thing. Choose one thing to do, and take that on. And as you see your success and you see your ability to make those adjustments or have an impact on a local project, it becomes much easier to do more. And the next thing you know, it's a habit and a way of life. And that's the goal.
I love it. And I absolutely love Roots and Shoots. I'm a very big fan of Dr. Goodall. And like you said, I mean, the message really is, it's not just about, a lot of people get it muddied. They're like, oh, we care about the environment, but they don't put more emphasis into like human rights. It's really about people, compassion for people, for the animals and the planet. We are all in this together. So I think it's really important that that's always driven home. One thing affects another. Where can our listeners find out more information about you guys? Are you on Instagram? You guys on Facebook?
We sure are. So if we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter. we're on all forms of social media. And if you're struggling to find us directly through those platforms, you can also go to rootsandshoots.org and link to our social media accounts directly from there.
I love it. Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for what you do. Again, I'm a big fan of yours, and we definitely look forward to, I'm going to have actually my kids look at Roots and Shoots after I get off of this to learn more and to definitely join. And we will certainly spread the message of everything that you guys are doing to everyone that we know.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful, and we are looking forward to working together and collaborating with your network to continue making this world a better place.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. We will stay in touch. Well, thank you so much, Erin. Enjoy your day.
You too.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. That wraps up our interview with Erin Viera, Vice President of the Roots and Shoots organization. Erin, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I learned a lot, and it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Everyone, please check them out at www.rootsandshoots.org. Also check them out on their Instagram handle @rootsandshoots. I follow them, and I absolutely love their daily postings. They post pictures from around the world of different children doing different things to help the environment and the community around them. Definitely show them some love. They're an absolute amazing organization. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode. If you have any questions or would like to collab on a future episode of the podcast, please do feel free to email us at speaking@naturespremiere.com. We absolutely love hearing from our listeners. Until next week, we hope you have a wonderful, stress-free week ahead. Take care, friends.